Right, we're now joined by Dr. Willem Sprong, an engineer and a commentator on rail safety issues with GIB. And you, of course, Doctor, are on that board of inquiry, so you can't speak about the specifics of the Free State case. But can we start with your general view on the state of the rail system in South Africa?
Yeah, good evening, and thank you very much for the invitation. I must say, as a fourth generation railway person in my family, it's quite sad to see these things that happened over the last few weeks, especially the last two accidents. And if we look at the state of railway safety in South Africa, and we read the report that was published for the period 2016-2017 by the Railway Safety Regulator, the report that gives us the statistics of all the occurrences that happened in South Africa, we can see that over the last 3 years, if we look at the similar accidents like yesterday's accident where we had a collision in Germiston, we can see that there was an upwards trend of about 15%. In 3 years ago, we had 980 accidents or collisions. And last year, they reported that we had almost 1,100 collisions. If we look at
that sounds like a lot.
Yes, it does. And when you look at the international benchmarking, it is. If we look at countries, developed countries like Australia or in the UK, it is a lot. But if we compare ourselves to other BRICS countries like India and Brazil, it's not a lot. So to say we've got a crisis is very difficult to compare.
So above 1,000 accidents last year, and you say there's an upward trajectory. Presumably they're not all as horrific as 19 people burnt to death.
Yes.
Do these accidents often involve injuries? Can you tell that sort of thing?
Yes, if we look at the same report, we can see that fatalities, for instance, where people are killed on a railway reserve, that's people that enters the railway environment and they get killed. Over the last 5 years, stayed constant at about 450. In fact, the report states that we had 453 fatalities. If we look at injuries that was reported, last year we had 2,290 injuries. So we do get quite a lot of injuries. But now we also need to understand that these are also influenced by external factors. It's people that illegally enter the rail reserve in most cases. People that try and steal cables that get electrocuted. Pedestrians that walk alongside the railway line that get struck by a train. It even includes people that try and commit suicide walking in front of trains.
All right, so not necessarily passengers on trains. We spoke to the Department of Transport yesterday saying that things are in fact good, that the trains have to be licensed each and every year, so we don't need a huge big safety audit. Do you agree with that? And if that is the case, why are 450 people still dying, even if they're not all in the trains?
Yes, look, it's something that I hope that from the last two accidents we had, that during the Board of Inquiries and Investigations, that we can learn from what happened and that we can try and prevent these things from reoccurring in the future. You need to understand that when we do investigations like these, we not only look at what the cause of the accident was. It's also very important. For example, the accident last week in Kroonstad where the people burned, that we also look at the impact. What caused the impact to be so severe? So during the investigations, we will look at both aspects.
Yeah.
And in South Africa, we also sit with a situation during the development of the National Rail Safety Strategy. I noted 3 states of safety that you can find where you either have a reactive railway system, where if you have an accident, you respond correctly and you clear it up very quickly, you limit the impact, in other words. Or you have a safe system where you don't have any accidents. But then the one that's worrying me is the unsafe system. And in South Africa, we tend to reduce the capacity in our railway system to prevent accidents. For example, the accident that happened yesterday and information that is available, it seems like there were cables that were stolen and they had to do manual authorizations. It means that because of the theft, an external factor, like I said, they had to revert to a manual operation, manual authorizations, which in inherent should be safe the way the system is designed, but we reduce the capacity. So if there's an unsafe situation, we should not reduce the capacity, run the trains slower or run shorter trains just to be safe.
And what about the experience, this is what I asked government yesterday, and the training of the manual operators? Because presumably if the signals and everything works, they don't have to get on and tell the drivers what to do, but surely you've got to keep up the training to do that when you have to.
You know, a risk in the railway environment you can view as a balance beam. Where on the one side you will have all your hazards and your incidents, the things that influence this balance negative. On the other hand, you will have all the procedures, all the technology, everything that you use to try and prevent accidents. But then that whole balance beam is balanced on one point, and that's your human factor. That's where you can have a positive or a negative safety culture, your training, your experience, your skills, all those systems you have in place to manage your human resources.
So do we have a positive or a negative safety culture overall?
Well, that's the beauty of this model, is that it changes every day. It depends on every person that reports to duty. And I would still like to see a human being that hasn't made an error. So when we say it's human error, we must understand that humans do make mistakes.
If I, as a South African, am to get on to a train tomorrow, should I feel safe? You know, we're talking about a lot of different scenarios, a lot of things that we're doing right and wrong. In finality, do you believe that we're doing the best we can? Should I feel safe?
Well, to answer you in that, when the Rail Safety Regulator receives all these reports, they categorize it basically in two categories: operational occurrences and security occurrences. I would feel relatively safe if I look at the operational side.
Okay.
We have systems in place, and yes, we do have failures and we do have human error, but mostly we are safe. What worries me is the other category, which is the security related categories, where we heard over the media about a security guard down in the Western Cape that got killed. Those type of incidents is really worrying. If I look at that same report, South Africa paid nearly 900 million rand on railway occurrences during 2016-2017, of which 100 million can be related to security-based incidents.
All right, and that's much harder to control.
Yes, and that is where we have these two systems that interact, the railway system and the social economic system, the communities.
Oh, all right, well, thank you, Dr. Willem Sprong. He will be on that board of inquiry into what happened in the Free State, an engineer commentator from